Welcome back to Fire Pit Talk with James, where we get to hear your thoughts on various topics. What's on your mind today?
Let's talk about World War II and the Normandy landings.
James, the Normandy landings are a crucial part of World War II history. What specifically would you like to delve into regarding that event?
Let's talk about the strategies they used in order to make this happen.
Well, the Allies had quite the complex plan for Normandy. One of the key strategies was using deception to fool the Germans into thinking the invasion would happen somewhere else, mainly the Pas-de-Calais area. This involved creating phantom armies and sending false radio transmissions. They also heavily bombed German defenses, transportation networks, and radar sites in the weeks leading up to the landings. Absolutely. The deception strategy, known as Operation Fortitude, was really quite clever. They created a fictional army, complete with inflatable tanks, realistic-looking bases, and even false radio traffic to make the Germans think the main attack would happen in Pas-de-Calais, which was a narrower strip of water. This helped draw German forces away from the actual invasion sites on the Normandy beaches. Isn't that incredible?
That's crazy. How were the Germans reacting upon learning about all this?
From what I understand, the Germans were pretty well convinced the main invasion would happen in the Pas-de-Calais area, even keeping some of their best units there. It seems like the deception really worked in drawing their attention away from Normandy. What do you think was the biggest factor in its success?
Probably the skill level of the army that was using the deception.
That's a very good point. The effectiveness of any deception strategy relies heavily on the expertise and discipline of the individuals executing it. From crafting the false intelligence to maintaining the secrecy of the actual plans, it took a highly skilled team to pull it off successfully. Is there any specific aspect of their skill that you find particularly interesting?
I just find the concept of deception crazy in the war, seeing how it helped greatly in Allied forces winning. How many different leaders were there at the time of World War II when Normandy was being taken over?
That's a great question. At the time of the Normandy landings, the major Allied leaders included General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was the Supreme Allied Commander, General Bernard Montgomery, who commanded the ground forces, and of course, political figures like Winston Churchill of the United Kingdom and Franklin D. Roosevelt of the United States. Would you like to know more about any of these leaders in particular?
What was Winston Churchill's part in World War II?
Winston Churchill was, for a large part of World War II, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He's known for his inspiring speeches and strong leadership during the war. He played a key role in Allied conferences and worked closely with other Allied leaders to strategize against the Axis powers. Is there anything specific you'd like to know about his role? World War II didn't exactly come into effect immediately after World War I, as there was a couple of decades between them. However, the end of World War I and the Treaty of Versailles did play a big role in setting the stage for the next war. For example, the treaty placed heavy reparations on Germany, which caused economic hardship and resentment. Also, the rise of fascist leaders like Hitler in Germany and Mussolini in Italy after World War I contributed to the tensions that led to World War II. Would you like to go into more detail about one of these causes?
Yes, let's go into detail about the Treaty of Versailles.
The Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919, ending World War I. It's often criticized for its harsh terms against Germany, which included ceding territory, disarming its military, and paying massive reparations to the Allied powers. These conditions caused widespread poverty and resentment within Germany, which helped fuel the rise of Nazism and set the stage for another war. Is there any particular aspect of the treaty you'd like to discuss further?
No. Let's talk about how Hitler's upbringing brought him to the status he had.
It's true that Hitler's upbringing did play a significant role in his rise to power. He had a difficult childhood, marked by poverty and a complicated relationship with his father. These experiences seem to have shaped his worldview and contributed to his extremist political beliefs. Is there anything else you'd like to learn about the connection between his early life and his eventual rise?
Yes.
As a summary, we discussed how the Treaty of Versailles played a crucial role in creating the economic and political instability in Germany that fueled Hitler's rise. We also explored how his early life experiences contributed to his extremist views. Is there anything else we missed, or would you like to delve into another topic?
Let's dive into another topic. What happened on December of 1941?
December 1941 was a pivotal month in World War II, largely because of the attack on Pearl Harbor on the 7th. That led to the United States entering the war. Just a few days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the US. Would you like to focus on the attack on Pearl Harbor or the declarations of war?
Both.
Let's break down December 1941. The attack on Pearl Harbor was a huge turning point. What do you recall about the attack itself? And then regarding the declarations of war, what were the main reasons the Axis powers declared war on the US?
So I don't know much about the second topic, but I do know the attack on Pearl Harbor was supposed to be a surprise element to knock out our Navy fleet so Japan could have the upper hand.
You're absolutely right. The attack on Pearl Harbor was intended to be a devastating surprise strike that would cripple the U.S. Navy's Pacific Fleet. Japan's goal was to neutralize American power in the Pacific so they could expand their empire without significant opposition. Now, regarding the second topic, the Axis powers declaring war on the U.S., would you like to discuss the reasons behind that decision?
Yes.
All right. So after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, Germany and Italy, who were allied with Japan, declared war on the United States. This was largely due to the existing agreements they had with Japan. They essentially saw America's involvement against Japan as a reason to enter the war themselves, further globalizing the conflict. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. So, to summarize, the attack on Pearl Harbor was a surprise strategic move by Japan aimed at crippling the U.S. Navy. This led to Germany and Italy declaring war on the U.S. as they were allied with Japan, bringing the United States into the global conflict. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss about these events, or another related topic?
Yes. How did the U.S. react upon the Pearl Harbor attack?
The United States' reaction to Pearl Harbor was one of shock, anger, and resolve. President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered a powerful speech to Congress, famously calling December 7th a date which will live in infamy. The very next day, Congress voted to declare war on Japan, with only one vote against it. This attack mobilized the American public and brought the United States fully into the war. Would you like to know more about how the American public reacted, or something else?
Yes.
Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, American public sentiment took a dramatic turn. Prior to this, many Americans were hesitant to get involved in the war, preferring a policy of isolationism, but the attack was seen as a direct assault on the United States itself, leading to a unified call for action. Would you be interested in learning more about how the media portrayed the attack, or perhaps the public's response to the national call for service? The media played a huge role in shaping the public's reaction to Pearl Harbor. Newspapers and radio broadcasts emphasized the sneak attack nature of the assault, fueling anger and a desire for revenge. The government also used propaganda to unite the country behind the war effort. As for the public's response to the call for service, there was a massive increase in volunteers for the military. A strong sense of patriotism and a willingness to fight for their country was evident across the nation. Is there anything else I can elaborate on regarding this topic?
No.
All right. Is there any other topic you'd like to discuss, or would you like me to summarize the key points we've covered today?
Let's talk about how the aftermath of World War I spiraled into the beginning of World War II.
Okay, let's explore how the aftermath of World War I set the stage for World War II. We've discussed the Treaty of Versailles and its impact on Germany, the rise of extremist ideologies, and the global economic depression. How do you see these factors connecting to the start of World War II?
I think they all played a part in the breakdown of society and how people wanted to get more power and to fall back into, society.
Yes, that's a very insightful observation. The Treaty of Versailles created economic hardship and resentment, which extremist ideologies promised to fix. The global economic depression only made these problems worse, leading people to seek alternative solutions that often involved aggressive power dynamics. It's like these pieces of a puzzle all fell into place to create the perfect storm for World War II. Does that resonate with what you were thinking?
Yes. Give me an inside history on Hitler and the Nazi Party.
Okay, let's delve into the history of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Born in Austria, Hitler gained prominence in the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party, after World War I. The party's ideology centered around extreme nationalism, anti Semitism, and the belief in a superior Aryan race. Hitler's powerful and persuasive speeches, combined with the economic woes of the 1920s and 30s, helped the Nazi Party gain popularity. By 1933, Hitler was appointed chancellor, and he quickly consolidated power, establishing a totalitarian regime. What aspects of this would you like to explore further?
Explore the aspect of a totalitarian regime.
A totalitarian regime is a government that controls literally every aspect of public and private life. Under Hitler, this meant the Nazi Party controlled education, the media, the economy, and even people's thoughts and beliefs through constant propaganda and secret police. What about this type of control are you most interested in exploring?
How it brought the demise of the Nazi Party.
Totalitarian regimes tend to collapse because they are so focused on control that they stifle innovation and individual thought. This lack of adaptability makes them vulnerable to internal and external threats. In the case of the Nazi regime, their aggressive expansionist policies eventually led to World War II, which required immense resources and ultimately resulted in their defeat. Would you like to discuss how specific Allied victories contributed to the Nazi regime's downfall?
Yes.
All right. So, key Allied victories included the Battle of Stalingrad, which was a major turning point on the Eastern Front, the Normandy landings, which opened a Western Front, and the contributions of the U.S. in the Pacific Theater. Would you like to discuss any of these victories in more detail?
Yes, let's discuss all of them.
The Battle of Stalingrad, fought between 1942 and 1943, was a brutal fight on the Eastern Front. It resulted in a massive German defeat, pushing the Axis powers back in the Soviet Union. The Normandy landings on June 6, 1944, also known as D-Day, involved a massive Allied invasion of German-occupied France, opening a Western front and beginning the liberation of Western Europe. Finally, the U.S.'s contributions in the Pacific Theater, including significant naval battles and island-hopping campaigns, steadily weakened Japanese power and contributed to Japan's surrender. Would you like to know more about any of these events?
Yes, let's really go into detail about D-Day and how it's pivotal in our winning of World War II.
D-Day, June 6, 1944, was the largest amphibious invasion in history and a crucial turning point in the war. The Allied forces, landing on the beaches of Normandy, France, faced fierce German resistance. Despite heavy losses, they established a beachhead, forcing the Nazis to divert troops from the Eastern Front to defend the West. This weakened their ability to fight the Soviets, contributing significantly to the overall Allied victory. Would you like to know more about the specific challenges faced during the landings or the impact of the invasion on the course of the war?
Let's talk about both.
Let's dive into D-Day, focusing both on the challenges it presented and its significance in the war. The Allied landings on June 6, 1944, faced formidable obstacles, including heavily fortified German defenses, unpredictable weather, and challenging terrain like hedgerows. Communication issues were also common. Despite these challenges, the sheer scale of the invasion and the bravery of the troops allowed them to establish a beachhead. Now, let's turn to the impact. Why was D-Day so pivotal in the Allied victory?
I think because of how we stormed the beach and took over fiercely.
Exactly. The unwavering determination and fierce fighting displayed by the Allied troops on D-Day were crucial. Their ability to storm beaches and establish a foothold against fortified German positions was a testament to their training and resolve. This success created a vital front in the West, forcing Germany to divide its resources and ultimately weakening its ability to defend its borders. Would you like to know more about the tactics used during the landings or the long-term impact of D-Day on the course of the war?
Let's talk about both.
The D-Day landings faced immense challenges. From unpredictable weather to heavily fortified German defenses, Allied troops endured perilous conditions and heavy losses. Yet their unwavering determination and strategic execution proved crucial. This success led to the establishment of a Western Front, forcing Germany to divert resources, significantly weakening its ability to defend its borders. The long-term impact of D-Day was monumental. It marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany, as the Allied forces continued to push forward, leading ultimately to their surrender. Would you like to discuss any specific aspects of the landings or the consequential outcomes?
Let's discuss the consequential outcomes.
The consequential outcomes of D-Day were truly monumental. Not only did it establish a Western Front, forcing Germany to fight on two major fronts simultaneously, but it also provided a significant boost to Allied morale. The successful invasion demonstrated that Nazi Germany was vulnerable and that defeat was possible. What aspects of the long-term impact are you most interested in learning more about?
All of them.
All right, let's start with the establishment of the Western Front. Before D-Day, the Nazis were primarily focused on the Eastern Front battling the Soviet Union. The success of the Allied landings on June 6, 1944, forced Germany to divert resources and attention away from the East, opening a second major combat front. How do you think this shift in focus impacted the overall war effort?
Oh, I'm not too sure. Why don't you tell us?
Well, having to fight on two fronts significantly strained the Nazis' resources. They had to spread their troops then between the eastern and western fronts, weakening their defenses in both regions. This made it easier for the Allies to advance and ultimately contribute to the fall of Nazi Germany. Would you like to know more about the impact on Nazi morale?
Yes.
The Normandy landings had a significant impact on Nazi morale.
Let's talk about the League of Nations Assembly.
The League of Nations Assembly was one of the main bodies of the League of Nations, an intergovernmental organization founded after World War I. It was intended to be the main deliberative body of the League, where all member states could meet and discuss issues and make decisions by consensus. The Assembly had a broad mandate, overseeing the work of the League's various commissions and committees, controlling the budget, and even considering admissions or withdrawals from the League. Is there anything specific you'd like to know about the Assembly, its powers, or its role in the League?
Let's talk about it all.
The Assembly played a key role in the League of Nations function. It was the democratic component, where all member states, regardless of size, had equal say. The Assembly oversaw the budget, admitted new members, and made recommendations on international disputes. However, its effectiveness was limited, as major powers like the US were not members, and decisions often required consensus, which was hard to achieve. What specific aspect of the Assembly's function interests you most?
All the aspects. Let's really go into it.
Okay, let's delve into the various aspects of the League of Nations Assembly. First, its deliberative role. The Assembly was the central platform for member states to discuss international issues, propose solutions, and reach consensus. Each member had one vote, ensuring a degree of equality among all participating nations. Next, its oversight function. The Assembly oversaw the activities of the League's various commissions and committees, including those dealing with disarmament, health, and colonial mandates. Additionally, it held the authority to approve the League's budget. Lastly, its administrative powers. The Assembly also handled admissions and withdrawals from the League, playing a direct role in the membership composition. Is there any part of this that you'd like to examine in more detail?
No, but let's talk about how Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany and what that had effect-wise on Germany.
Adolf Hitler's ascent to Chancellor in Germany in January 1933 marked a pivotal moment in history. He didn't seize power by force, but was appointed through legal channels, thanks to a series of political maneuvers and the support of conservative elites who believed they could control him. However, once in office, Hitler quickly consolidated power, dismantling democratic institutions and transforming Germany into a totalitarian state. The effects of his chancellorship were immediate and devastating. The Nazis implemented a racial ideology, suppressed political opposition, and began a campaign of aggression that ultimately led to World War II. Is there a particular aspect of his rise or initial policies you'd like to explore further?
No. What treaties took place during both wars that had great effect on it, the war?
There were a few treaties during both wars that had major effects. For World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was the big one. It was the peace treaty that ended the war and had some pretty harsh terms for Germany, which some historians argue contributed to World War II. Then, in World War II, you had agreements like the Munich Agreement, which allowed Germany to annex parts of Czechoslovakia, and later the Yalta and Potsdam conferences, where the Allies discussed the post-war world. Are there any specific treaties you'd like to know more about?
The Franco-Soviet Pact.
The Franco-Soviet Pact was an agreement signed in 1935 between France and the Soviet Union. It was essentially a mutual assistance pact, where the two countries agreed to come to each other's aid if they were attacked by that.
How did Japan get brought up into World War II?
Japan's involvement in World War II started before the attack on Pearl Harbor. They were already expanding their influence in Asia, particularly by invading China. This led to the United States imposing economic sanctions on Japan, including an oil embargo. Japan saw these sanctions as a threat to their ability to continue their expansion, and they felt that striking at the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor would give them time to secure their resource needs. Is there anything else you'd like to know about this?
Go a little more into detail.
To give you more context, Japan's expansion into Asia began with the invasion of Manchuria in 1931, followed by a full-scale invasion of China in 1937. The United States was critical of Japan's aggression and began imposing sanctions, hoping to curb Japan's military expansion. The situation escalated when Japan occupied northern French Indochina in 1940, prompting the U.S. to implement even stricter economic sanctions, including an oil embargo. This oil embargo was seen by Japan as a direct threat to its ability to continue its military operations, and was a major factor in its decision to attack Pearl Harbor and enter World War II. Would you like more details on the specific economic sanctions imposed?
Yes. And also talk about how it brought down Japan's empire.
The U.S. played a crucial role in dismantling Japan's empire. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the U.S. launched a massive military campaign across the Pacific. This involved a strategy of island hopping, capturing key strategic islands to move closer to Japan itself. The fighting was incredibly brutal, with major battles like Iwo Jima and Okinawa. The U.S. also employed a massive bombing campaign against Japanese cities, severely damaging.
Let's talk about the Battle of Iwo Jima and Okinawa.
The battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa were two of the most brutal and significant of the Pacific War. Iwo Jima, which took place in February and March 1945, was a fierce battle for a small volcanic island that had strategic airfields. The Japanese defenses were incredibly well prepared, with tunnels and bunkers, making each inch of ground fought for with extreme difficulty. The iconic image of Marines raising the American flag on Mount Suribachi became a powerful symbol of the courage and sacrifice in that battle. The battle was unable to help you with that.
Let's get a summary of everything we've talked about so far, just so my viewers can catch up.
Sure. We've covered quite a bit today, starting with the pivotal events of D-Day, including the establishment of the Western Front and its impact on Nazi morale. We then pivoted to the role of the League of Nations Assembly, discussing its deliberative, oversight, and administrative functions. After that, we examined how Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany and the immediate effects of his policies. Finally, we discussed how Japan was drawn into World War II, covering their expansion into Asia, the resulting U.S. sanctions, and the pivotal roles of the battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa in the dismantling of Japan's empire. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this summary, or anything we should explore further?
Yes. Let's explore the Battle of Midway.
The Battle of Midway, fought in June 1942, was a pivotal moment in the Pacific War. Just 6 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese were hoping to deliver another decisive blow to the U.S. Navy by capturing the strategically important Midway Atoll. However, American intelligence braked the Japanese codes and knew exactly where and when the attack would happen. The resulting battle was all fought entirely by aircraft launched from aircraft carriers. The U.S. managed to sink 4 Japanese carriers while only losing one of their own. This victory was a turning point in the Pacific War, shifting the momentum away from Japan and towards the United States. Is there anything else I can elaborate on regarding the battle?
No. But how did the USS North Carolina play a part in the World Wars?
The USS North Carolina, also known as the Showboat, was a fast battleship that played a significant role in the Pacific theater of World War II. After Pearl Harbor, she was sent to the Pacific and participated in every major naval offensive of the war, earning 15 battle stars. Key engagements included the Battle of the Eastern Solomons, where she protected aircraft carriers, the Guadalcanal campaign, and supporting amphibious landings during the island hopping campaigns. Her powerful guns provided fire support and air defense against kamikaze attacks. She was also present during the surrender of Japan in Tokyo Bay. Do you have any more questions about the USS North Carolina?
Yes. What happened to the battleship upon the ending of the World Wars?
After World War II, the USS North Carolina was decommissioned in 1947 and placed in the inactive reserve fleet. However, thanks to a grassroots campaign, she was saved from being scrapped and was transferred to the state of North Carolina to become a memorial and museum ship. She remains in Wilmington, North Carolina to this day, preserved as a National Historic Landmark. Is there anything else you'd like to know about her post-war career?
Who were her sister battleships?
The USS North Carolina's sister battleship was the USS Washington, also known as the BB-56. They were part of the North Carolina-class battleships, which were the first of the fast battleships to join the U.S. Navy during World War II. The Washington served similarly in the Pacific Theater, fighting alongside the North Carolina in many of the major engagements. Would you like to know more about the USS Washington?
Yes.
The USS Washington played a crucial role in several major Pacific battles. Notably, she was part of the naval engagement at the Second Battle of Guadalcanal in November 1942, where she directly engaged and damaged several Japanese ships, helping to secure a vital victory for the United States. Later, she supported various amphibious landings and provided fire support throughout the Pacific theater. Is there any specific action you'd like to learn more about?
No.
In that case, we've covered quite a bit today, from D-Day to the North Carolina class battleships. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Nope. That was a great episode. And to my viewers, today was a little bit different. We were trying to see how AI would play with speaking and putting things together, because with new jobs and such with other people, it's been kind of hard to talk. So I've been experimenting. So let me know how this goes. It might be a future thing, it might not be, but we'll see. But we thank you all for joining today. As usual, this is Fiber Talk with James. More to come. Y'all have a great one.